Hello and welcome back. We are now heading to Unit 3 of Week 2. The purchasing unit deals with the straightforward buying process for goods. In Unit 2, we released the purchase requests to the purchasing department. Before we talk about the processing of purchase order itself, I would like to spend a few words on the strategic sourcing. The strategic sourcing is used to find one or more appropriate suppliers for new or existing products. You might use it to find a supplier for a long-term purchase that would result in the purchasing contract. Or you might use it for a one-time purchase, for example, a product that your research department needs. This is supported by the Request for Quotation functionality or RFQ. The process of strategic sourcing begins with the purchaser identifying several potential suppliers or bidders for the product to be procured. Once quantity, requested date, and response times are set, the purchaser sends the request for quotation to all potential bidders, usually via email, for example with an interactive form or via electronic messaging in XML format. If the purchaser receives the quotes via interactive form, this is immediately uploaded in the system. Same for XML messages. Otherwise, the purchaser can manually maintain the offering information. After the response time is over, the purchaser compares the different quotes with the help of the comparison sheet and afterwards awards one and checks the others. For the awarded supplier, the contract or purchase order is created automatically. If the amount exceeds a certain limit, the purchase manager might have to approve the contract before it's sent to the supplier. This leads to a smooth transition to the core purchasing. Okay, now that I have explained the strategic sourcing, we can start talking about the processing the purchase orders. Our starting point is the purchase request that we created in the previous unit. Here you see the straightforward handling of the purchase orders as a prerequisite for the logistics execution and with potential impact back to the supply planning. Purchase requests are the central entry point to collect requests to purchase material from different sources such as shopping carts, projects, and of course supply planning. Based on these purchase orders are created. Depending on the value of the purchase order, you can control if a manager's approval is required before sending it to the supplier. The supplier might optionally send an acknowledgement to confirm completely, partially, or reject the requested date and quantity. The purchasing process can be mostly automated, only in case an approval is needed or if the supplier acknowledgement has deviation, manual interaction is needed. So now let's switch directly to the system demo. I will explain the details there. So the purchaser usually works with the purchase request and orders view, and especially on the purchase requests view, which displays all the open purchase requests that are not ordered yet. So with this list, purchase orders can be initiated. If the supplier was not determined yet, the purchaser has the option to assign the source of supply or to send a quick sourcing request as an input for request for quotations. I will close here the left side to show all the respective buttons. Usually the purchase order creation can be automated. It can be automated in the way that there is a one-to-one relationship from purchase request to purchase order. That can be, the automation can be set in the Common Tasks view in Define Automatic Creation of Purchase Orders. to manually initiate one purchase order, you would use the new purchase order button, or you could also combine or bundle several purchase requests into one order. And that's what I will show you now. I will select here the purchase requests, and here in with the bundle and order functionality, we have several variations how the purchase order should be created. It could be that they are combined only to the supplier, or that they can be combined by the supplier and delivery date, or on top to the ship to our recipient. So I will choose the option by supplier. Also, this functionality that I show you now can be automated with the purchase order bundling run. We see here in the list, since we have two suppliers, that the system proposes two purchase orders. And for our supplier Omigo, we see here below that we have the two purchase requests here assigned. For simplicity reasons of this demo, I will remove them here from the bundle. And also I will remove here this purchase order for the supplier technical components. And now I will just order this. Below in that line, you see the purchase order number that was created. In the purchase order view, we can see that the purchase order was sent automatically to the supplier. We see that in the output history. And in our case, the purchase order here as a PDF was sent by email to this email address. So here, since this is a demo system and the email address is not valid, we get an error here. So we could also use an interactive form instead of a PDF that helps later the customer to report, the supplier to report the confirmations and the acknowledgement. We could also use electronic messaging, XML, fax, or usual printout. So I will close this now and show you how the supply and demand list changes for the supply planner. So initially we had here the purchase request, and now this will change to the purchase order. So the supplier will send us now a supplier acknowledgement, purchase order acknowledgement with deviating confirmation dates. So out of these 23 pieces, they will confirm only 10 pieces on the requested date and 13 pieces 2 days later. So since they have sent that as an email, I have to maintain that manually. If this was sent by interactive form or XML, I would get the information directly displayed and available here in the system. So in the purchase orders view, I create now the new purchase order acknowledgement. We see here on the items section that the item can be accepted or rejected or set to pending, but I will just change the delivery schedule. So I add a row to represent the 13 pieces for 2 days later, and 10 exactly as confirmed for today. And now I could accept the deviation immediately with the save. It will be stored as a task for further usage, for example, for the manager. So I save it. And close this. And here on the purchase orders selection, I just switch to the open task. So here in the list below, I see that we have a deviating purchasing order acknowledgement. So I can go into that, check it, and see if I can accept the deviation here on the delivery schedule. In case I cannot accept this, I can use the reject deviation button. That would result in the purchase order not being changed, and I would need to manually cancel the purchase order in case I want to order it from a different supplier. In our case, I will accept the deviation because I'm happy that at least a partial quantity can be delivered. So also this will be immediately reflected in the supply and demand list for the planner, which I will switch to right now. So here here we see immediately the purchase order was replaced by the purchase order acknowledgement. 10 pieces being available today, and another 13 pieces available on Monday the next week. So with that, I go back to the slides. Summarizing this unit, you got an overview of the strategic sourcing. You learned how to merge purchase requests to purchase orders and how the supplier acknowledgement might impact goods receipt, processing, and supply planning. This concludes Unit 3. See you in the next unit.